Hi, how are you? This is Damaris Maria Grossman, and this is the Mindfully Integrative Show. And today we have an amazing guest and mindful chat with Kristen Bowen. And she calls herself the Magnesium Advocate, wellness and business, provider. So I cannot wait for you guys to meet her and to learn more about what she does for herself and for others. Thanks for getting on to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. As I listened to you introduce me, I just settled down a little bit more in my chair with the tone of your voice, and I feel comfy, and I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yes, it's supposed to be a space and time for you to kind of, dive into what is really the reason where, you've developed what you've developed and all that you have, as I call it, integrative space, integrative health and mindfully integrative. What kind of came about for you? You call yourself a magnesium advocate. So let's kind of start before that. There was always something that's underlying that kind of gets people to where they are.
So I had a health crash. I had a failed surgery. I went in to have a bladder tie up after a baby, my third baby,
Mm.
and
Aw.
went in to get that fixed. I am someone who has experienced trauma as a child, and depression is woven through my history. And so I was really missing that exercise. But when I exercised, my bladder was causing me issues. And on the table, I coded. My heart stopped numerous times and ended up in the hospital for weeks. And is what happened is I went in with autoimmune. I'm a celiac, and so I had a known autoimmune disease, and they put titanium in me. Titanium at the time was thought to be inert, but now we know Melissa syndrome is a real thing, and I had a reaction to the titanium screws. And so my health just plummeted.
Mhm.
I was on TPN, total perinatal
Ah.
nutrition. I was having seizures every day in a wheelchair. I lost weight, lost a lot of hair. And so it was through that crash that I was actually able to rebuild my health. And I still sometimes can't believe I'm saying this, but because at the time that crash was financially, emotionally, mentally devastating for myself and my young family. But looking back, it was the beginning of such a better life. And I don't want to live through it again. I am so grateful for the lessons that I learned because those lessons are what I live and experience now on a daily basis.
Mm. That is so true. If I couldn't agree with you more. I laugh jokingly, but I mean, all seriousness aside, that's a huge undertaking to one f- fall ill and code on a table is not just something to be shy about. And then to be on TPN, I mean, I know that individuals on the podcast may not know what that is. Would you explain that? I mean, I know what it is, but would you explain that to those listening?
So my body just shut down and couldn't accept food or water, and I was just wasting away. They couldn't keep enough nutrition in me. And so it was decided that I needed to be fed through a tube so that they could keep me alive and trying to figure out what was causing the seizures, what was causing my blood
Mhm.
pressure to drop, why I wasn't able to communicate anymore. I went in with someone who definitely depression, um, stemming from the trauma as a child, but was managing my life. And
Right.
I was managing things. And then the surgery, I wasn't able to even get out of bed. I wasn't able to use the bathroom by myself. I wasn't able to drink water to stay hydrated. I couldn't hold on to my potassium. And so the TPN actually kept me alive.
Yeah, the total parental nutrition is not anything to be shy about. It's through an IV that you're given, and you're on it for quite a while usually. And then your
Yes, it
body
was
has to
quite a
then
weaning
reacclimating to
process.
eating again. So I can
Yeah.
imagine you went back and started to want to eat and re-change and get into the real world. How was that from being bedridden to then slowly getting better, where was that kind of moment that changed? I mean, yes, you came out and you've healed, but there had to have been a time when you were home and
Oh, absolutely. We were desperate. In a way, I was insulated because I was so sick, I didn't realize the ramifications it was having on my family. And
Mm,
so, but my family was living that. We had young children in our home. It
oh,
got to the point my husband took a leave of absence because I wasn't able to care for them. And so
that's a lot.
it was chasing symptoms, and we chased symptoms. We went to Mayo Clinic, we went to Stanford, we went to anywhere that we thought would listen to my out of the box things that were happening, and we just couldn't put those pieces together. And so then we started chasing natural symptoms, and we chased and we chased. And if we heard of this helping or of that helping someone else, we would try it. And it was emotionally exhausting and financially devastating. In fact, we would have lost everything if my parents wouldn't have stepped in. And it's amazing to me because we were not in debt before. We were in financially a good place going into that surgery, but that one failed surgery cost us almost everything. And so the moment that I fell in love with magnesium and realized that the stress of the trauma as a child that was still taking a toll in my life, the stress of young children in my home and not being able to take care of them, the stress of the surgery, all of those things were draining my magnesium. And as we know, magnesium is so critically important for everyone because it determines and dictates your vitamin D levels. And as someone with an autoimmune, that vitamin D is very important for me to keep up and strong because you'll see so many people with one autoimmune, pretty soon they have two autoimmune, and then they have three autoimmune, and it just cascades. And the foundation that that sits on is vitamin D. But no one was talking about the magnesium that the vitamin D needs to be able to convert. And so I had a friend that brought some magnesium over, and I said to her immediately, "Oh, I can't take that," because at that point it was such a transitional process from going off of the feeding to regular foods. And she said, "Oh no, you don't have to take this as a pill." And that really piqued my interest. And she said, "I'll just set you up and you soak in it." Because at that point, I sitting in the chair slumped over was basically what I did. And I felt the benefit immediately. Now, it did not heal everything, it does not fix everything, but I immediately felt that pulsing that happens as your body uptakes that magnesium. And immediately it was something that I wanted my family to experience. And so as we started just using more magnesium and soaking in magnesium, and we saw our children started sleeping better, and my husband's blood sugar started getting better, and I realized this magnesium is the doorway to so many issues that we had been chasing down. And instead of chasing all these leaves that were blowing in the wind, we started fixing the foundational problem, and that was that we needed more magnesium. And then as I started healing, people started coming to me and asking questions. And as they asked questions, I started researching and learning and just understanding more and more about magnesium. And living the good life naturally was born from that.
Awesome. That's great. And through your so you do topical and oils and such that you've so with your family you started to you like foot soaks and oils and such with them and got them more involved with the uses of it because there's different types of magnesium.
There are different types of magnesium. And as I started researching and learning, because it was confusing, do I use magnesium glycinate? Do I use magnesium oxide? And for
Would you like to
me,
talk about any of that?
as well, for me, I don't. do synthetic oral nutrition.
Right. No,
And
which is fine.
think of it, you look at a box of cereal and it has that same synthetic nutrition,
Don't eat it.
and we
It's
know
bad
that
for you.
cereal doesn't get us better, but then we go to the health food store and we pay a premium price for that synthetic nutrition in a pill. And
It's
so
so weird.
I
But
love the magnesium chloride because my goal with magnesium is not just a spot treatment of relaxing my muscles or making sure my bowels are moving. My goal with magnesium is cell saturation and making sure that each red blood cell has magnesium around it so that my heart can benefit, my pancreas can benefit, my bones can benefit, my mental health is a huge driver for me so I can get that benefit, that uptake of serotonin and those neurotransmitters to help be as balanced as possible. And so, because of that issue that I had with synthetic nutrition, it's not something that I do. And now we know, you look at
it's
ascorbic,
not really beneficial.
it's
It's
not
not
there.
bioavailability, or it doesn't absorb well when you just
Yeah.
take a pill. It
And
absorbs so much better oil and powder. Well, powder somewhat too.
And we can go through the different synthetic nutritions and now we can say, oh, ascorbic acid is blocking iron issues. And there are so many different things. So why do we turn to a synthetic magnesium when we know there's such a pattern of that synthetic nutrition causing issues? And so for me, soaking is the only focus and the only way that I utilize magnesium other than food. So food and soaking are the two ways that I've achieved cell saturation.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing. So you also do oils though too, topicals, correct?
Yes, the magnesium chloride is oily. It's technically not an oil, but it does feel oily. And I
Mhm.
use a quarter cup of that, soak my feet in it, and our body uptakes that magnesium through that.
Oh, it's great. We talked before the benefits of both. I mean, I do think that magnesium has such a benefit on the body. So and it's pretty profound that you were able to kind of transition. Well, I'm just glad that you found something that was an added benefit for you as a whole and for your family. Um, and like I had said to you before, magnesium is has many of, you don't want to excess of, like, the synthetic version is, like, there's disclaimer, here,
Right.
excess and ingestion of things or high doses of something would be not as good. But a soaking, you can soak and not be of any harm. You just
Well, and I think it's so important as we take more accountability for our health, which you have to do. If
right.
you want to create more health, you have to take that accountability. And one of the things that I think is really important is knowing your magnesium numbers and knowing your red blood cell number because I might need more magnesium than you might need. I sometimes, with that post traumatic stress, can get triggered by something, and that trigger causes me to lose that magnesium. And if I've had several triggers in a week, I'm not responding well to my family because magnesium is the ultimate relaxer mineral
Right.
and it helps in your response to things and your reaction to things. And so that week, I might need to soak more often to offset those triggers that I've experienced. And so knowing your red blood cell number and are you at cell saturation helps you know how often you personally need to soak. And taking that personal information is empowerment. No one can tell you soak this often because you know those numbers for yourself and you know how often you need to soak.
No, I can understand that. And then do individuals go to providers to get those numbers, or do you have them go and check them on their?
My favorite place, and I think the easiest because I love easy when it comes to creating health. I don't want it to overtake my life and
Yeah.
have it be the sole purpose of my
Sure.
life. It's just getting healthy. I want to be healthy to be with those grandbabies of mine
Oh.
and to be, running and playing and swinging and climbing trees with them. And so I love to go to walk-in labs. I'm not affiliated with them. I
Oh,
have
yeah,
been
yeah.
using them
Yeah,
for
there's
20
some
years.
walk-ins. I think there's even some that they even are able to send you kits at home.
Yeah. And so walk-in labs and you put in magnesium red blood cell and it runs about $47, $49. You can usually find a coupon for it. You go in to the lab, they take your blood, they upload it to your online portal, and you know where your numbers are. And the goal is that 6.3. That's magnesium cell saturation. And when people get to that 6.3, it's when T4 converts to better to T3, their thyroid picks up, their inflammation changes. And again, it doesn't heal everything. I'm
No,
not saying
no,
that
but
soaking in magnesium
it's part of the equation of
of
getting
everything.
healthier, right?
Yeah,
So as I talk about to many people on the podcast, integrative component. This is one component that somebody could be listening to and saying, "Wow, that might be something I could use."
yeah,
Um, and that's what I'm mostly very much an advocate for is having someone listening or watching and being able to say that could be what I need, and having you on the show is because you're going to be your wealth of knowledge and your time and what you've established for someone. Of course you've made a business, but what you've the insight could be helpful for someone. And that
yeah.
is, I know for me, a foot soak in magnesium is like a world of difference, right? That's just it's like night and day for me. That between that, and then I have my other regimens that I may use for XYZ, but it does do a good amount, especially with the vitamin D levels that people are always low.
Right.
I mean,
And that
I think
low
I have
vitamin
patient after
D,
patient that's low on vitamin D.
yeah, that low vitamin D is actually an indication your magnesium is low. And
Oh,
so
it's
instead
like
of,
constant. I feel like
yeah,
I mean, out of 100 patients, maybe 5 of them are not vitamin D deficient.
really,
Oh,
wow.
for sure.
And then I think, we step in again with that synthetic nutrition. We do the D3, but now we're understanding that D3 is stopping that cholesterol
Mhm.
from
And it's
converting.
supposed to be
And
D2.
yeah, and
I know.
so
So
just
there's like this component of, is it D2? Is it D3? I know I've been
yeah.
hearing a back and forth about that.
Yeah. And then, as I'm looking at the sign behind you that says, find a mindful way each and every day. And that magnesium improves mindfulness because it's hard to be mindful if you're in a reactive mode. And so magnesium calms you down, allows you to be more mindful. As you become more mindful, you actually decrease how fast your body burns through magnesium. And so the mindfulness and the magnesium go hand in hand. And as you bring the magnesium to your mindfulness, the magnesium, it's easier to be mindful when you're in a magnesium rich environment instead of a calcium dominant environment in your body.
Which I feel there's always that again, it comes down to balance, right? In this area. It makes sense.
Absolutely.
Um, so would you like to talk about maybe a story of a client or of your, I mean, I know you've talked about yourself, but
Right.
family or client that you've helped?
Oh, I would love to.
Sure.
I just got a sweet thank you note yesterday in the mail, and her comment was, I thought this soaking in magnesium was a bunch of fluff, but my
Oh,
sister demanded that I do it. And then in parentheses, she had older sister. And so her sister had asked her, please soak in this magnesium. And her comment was, I cannot believe the difference it has made in my relationships, and I wasn't even looking for that. I was looking to boost my thyroid function. But it's again that mindfulness comes in because when you're calmer, you can show up as yourself instead of a reaction. And so not only did she find the benefit to her thyroid as she slowly is decreasing her thyroid medication as she works with her naturopath, but she's finding an enrichment in her relationships. And I believe healthy women are deeply connected women. And so as she deeply connects to those people around her, it helps her to hold on to her magnesium. And what a privilege to be able to be a part of that. Like, the reason, the
No, that's
drive
amazing.
behind living the good life naturally is making this place a better place for our children to be, to make sure they're safe and that their needs are taken care of. And for that to happen, we need women who are mindful, women who wake up in the morning with a sense of purpose and mission. And so for me, to be able to be a little piece of her tapping into that mindfulness and waking up feeling ready to start the day, that's an incredible privilege that I don't take lightly.
That's amazing. That's well said. Well said. Um, I'd love for those to kind of reach out to you further. And how can they? First, let's talk about the types of products that you do with your magnesium,
Oh, okay.
and then how they can reach you.
Okay, so the foundation of everything that I do is a 32-ounce bottle of magnesium chloride that is the foot soak that you put a quarter
Which you
cup.
sent me, and I enjoyed
Oh,
very much.
good, good. My love language is gifts, so I'm so glad that you enjoyed that. And then when my grandbabies started being born, I realized we've got some magnesium deficiency going on with these babies. But it's not appropriate to take that delicate acid mantle and
Right.
have them
They can't
soak
do the bath,
in
right?
magnesium. And so that's when I created the magnesium lotion, because we know acid reflux actually starts because of a magnesium deficiency is one of the roles, that the connections that happens there. And so that magnesium lotion was created for little ones so we can start getting magnesium on them in an appropriate way for their skin. And then we also have a magnesium muscle cream that's really great before, pre and post workout, that's mentholated and has a nice little tingle to it and gets more magnesium to help those muscles recover. And we also have a spray bottle. I pop it in my car, in my purse. I've got a spray bottle wherever I go for a quick treatment of magnesium. But truly, the foundation is that soak, because spraying magnesium on your feet will benefit you, but the goal is cell saturation. And to achieve cell saturation, you've got to be soaking in the magnesium. The spray will help maintain it once you're there, but soaking is how you get there.
Mm, I just love the fact of having some time to soak was nice, and then closing your eyes and giving
Yeah.
yourself that time. And how
You
long
know,
would you, as your do you recommend?
so soaking, we did testing on this and found that in 20 minutes, your body has absorbed 80% of that magnesium. In 45 minutes, it's absorbed approximately 98%. And so I always tell people, max minimum 20 minutes, and at 45 minutes you've gotten the maximum benefit. Not that you can't keep your feet or stay in the bathtub longer, but
Mm.
you've maxed out the benefit of what you can get from the magnesium. And a lot of people will say, well, is a bath better than a foot soak? And no, it's not. In fact, we had some women that could not get to cell saturation. They couldn't get their numbers to move. And so I just started asking questions and researching to try to figure out what's the missing piece here. Why aren't their numbers moving? And we found they'd get in the bathtub and put their feet up on the end
Away
of the
from
bathtub, and your feet are what do the
the
pumping of
absorbing the
magnesium
pumping,
through
because
your
it all has to
body.
do with the valves.
Right.
Yeah, it all has. I mean,
And so if you're soaking in the tub, keep those feet in the water, because that's where
mm.
the real benefit is coming.
So that's very interesting that you say that. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, scientific, like the magnesium part, but the fact that the feet are just as effective than just a full bath, and actually a foot soak is easier for most people, so they should. It's almost availability, you know.
It is for me. I am a stacking of functions person. And so I will soak my feet while I'm returning emails, or I will soak my feet while I'm FaceTiming grandbabies again. I'll soak while I'm FaceTiming and loving on grandbabies that don't live close to me. And so you have to
Do you
be
have a
creative.
preferable containers, or do you sell
Yes.
the available on your website too?
Yes, we found that plastic stops the uptake and slows it down of
Hmm.
magnesium, the molded plastic,
Gotcha.
and so glass is your best option to soak in, and I just use a Pyrex casserole dish that you can find at thrift stores or at big box stores.
Oh, that's good to know. I mean, hey, I know someone's going to be asking me, so I said
Right,
if they
a
don't ask
crock
me,
pot insert is another thing that you can soak in the wintertime, if people are cold and
yeah,
the water cools down a little bit, my
gotcha.
mom doesn't like her feet getting cold, and so she found the crock pot insert kept the water warmer a little bit longer, and so that's a great thing to soak with also.
Maybe that's an invention you need to make.
There you go.
I
There you
mean, you
go.
started the well, maybe we'll partner. We'll help each other out.
There you
No,
go. There you go.
kidding was, but hey, you know what? It's probably something to think about.
Yeah.
Um, well, is there one other tidbit of information you'd like to share before we go for the day?
Yes, that mindfulness and that deep breathing actually dictates how minerals move through your body. And I think we forget how powerful those small, simple things are. When you stop and take that deep breath and make that decision to be conscious, you're actually keeping that magnesium in your body. When cortisol rises, we push magnesium out through our urine. And so that mindfulness actually becomes a way that we're in charge of how minerals move throughout our body and keep us healthy.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I could not agree more. It's such a pleasure having you on. And I want those to tell us your website so that they can reach you and
Oh, so they
engage with
can
you.
go to livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. And if they're interested in purchasing the magnesium, they can use POD 20, and that will give them 20% off their first purchase.
Oh, awesome. That sounds really great. Thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing
you're
that.
so welcome.
And I look forward to you maybe being on again at some point.
Oh,
And
I'd love to.
yeah. All right.
I'd love to. We could
Perfect. We'll
talk about the
dive in.
30-day challenge, so many places we could go.
That sounds really cool. Well, thank you again for your time and effort. And is there anything additional you'd like to share before
No,
we end?
I love being with you today, and I love being with and connecting with women who think outside of the box. And I think the more we talk and use our voices, that people will realize they're not alone in finding solutions that are outside of the box and being creative in creating healthier bodies. So
I love
thank
it.
you.
Thank you again for your time. And I'm so thankful you were on the podcast. It's been fun.
Thanks.